gotten pretty good at this, so I figure I'll make a video to benefit other people who might want to do something like this. This is a sheet of EL panel. I have affixed to it a laser printed vinyl clear sticker, and I'm going to show you how you can solder to an EL panel fragment. And what I'm doing right now is just cutting out the piece that I want, and it's very important that you make sure that you've got a bit of the side on your design. You always want whatever you're going to cut out to be against one of these sides, because these two areas that look sort of silver here are the two places where you can make connections. So before I cut it all out completely, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create these connection points in front of the camera here. Hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing, and hopefully I'll be able to see as well. So I know I can see the edge of it right here, that my design is right about there. So what I'm going to do is just very gently do a little scratching. See if you can see that. A little bit of a sort of crosshatch pattern. I'm just scratching with an X-Acto knife because this top surface, I don't know what it is, it looks like plastic, but it's actually, it acts more like a coating. And if you create a little bit of a crosshatch pattern, I'm going 3 different ways here, then very gently I'm going to try to pick off a little bit of this coating without scratching too deep into that silver. That's what I want to actually make a connection to. So you can probably see I've got like a little area where that silver is starting to lift off a little here, and that's okay, just as long as it's not anywhere near the edges of this silver. So let me try to point here and here, but particularly where this white line is, that's the insulation between the two pieces. If your backing gets peeled up too close to this insulation, you'll end up with a mess. You'll have to cut this whole part out. You don't want that to happen. But we don't mind if a little bit of the backing comes up, especially just like it has here, where it's almost like a little flap. Because what we're going to do next is squeeze just a little tiny dab of bare conductive paint, which is actually, I think, basically graphite and Elmer's glue. You could probably just make your own, but it is awfully convenient when it comes in this little tube, and Adafruit sells it. So I'll smooth that out, and I'm going to do the same thing also under my design, so I don't cut it out later by accident, but this time on the other side of the white insulator. And I'm going to leave a little room here, kind of do it almost in the middle, because like I said, the really important thing is that you don't accidentally go to that insulator, because that bare conductive paint, it can make its way all the way under there and cross the insulator and create a short, and like I said, then you have to cut that whole area out and it's a mess. So I am trying to avoid getting anywhere near where that little insulative line is. There's the light a little better so you can see what I'm doing. So same deal, sort of creating a crosshatch until I can see where I can peel up a little bit of this material. Can you see how it's making little crumbs there? That's what we want. We want little crumbs. That means we're getting down into the material. You can actually hear, I think, sort of it's changed from a rubbery sound to a gritty sound. And at this point I am trying not to damage the backlight part, the backing, because then I'll have a spot that's not lit up. I don't want that to happen. So I'm just trying to work off this coating. And I think that's pretty good right there. So I'm going to hold it up in the light so you can see a slight difference in the way that looks. There we go. See the crumbs? Those crumbs aren't the backing, they're just this plastic coating. That's what we're trying to get under. We want to be able to make a connection to that backing. I think we have probably got a connection in there now at this point. So one more blob of my bare conductive paint right there. And make sure it gets in there in contact with the bottom layer of conductor. That's the silvery stuff that we're seeing. Alright, that's excellent. Now, the next step is I need a little bit of copper tape. This variety, you've probably seen it before. And what I'm going to do is cut it and just let me back up a little bit. You don't need such a close view. I'm going to cut this in half. Well, not quite in half. I'm cutting a skinny one and a fat one. The fat one's going to be for my main base plane. The skinny one is going to be for that little bus bar at the top. And before I attach it, let's get in close again. Before I attach it, if you've had a piece of copper tape like this for a while, chances are it's got a little oxidation on top. And before we get everything together, it might be a good idea to just gently scrape off any oxidation on either end. This is the skinny piece. I'm going to use it on the bus bar. And a really nice way to get this backing off of the tape is to just fold it a little, like this. And what will happen is the paper will spring back and not the copper pretty easily. Alright, so now I'll line this up the best I can with this blob of bare ink. Okay. Just trying to mash it down on here to create a nice, because I don't want it to fall off. Not because it's making any kind of contact. At this point, all it's doing is sticking to plastic, but we are about to change that right now. I'm going to take a little bit of my bare paint here. And adhere it to the copper and the blob that I already put down. So at this point I have one blob that penetrates through the top layer of plastic, or I guess the bottom layer I ought to say, or at least it should. if I've done a good job creating a hole there. Okay. And I'm just going to clean up right here a little bit. What I'm doing is moving any visible paint out of the margin there, because I do not want to accidentally have any short. And now we'll do the other side. Have these. Again, if I fold paper just slightly, or if I fold the top rather, should move the paper down free easily. And I will position this also next to the blob, while keeping a good distance away from the other piece of tape. And I did actually forget this time to remove some oxidation. I'm going to do that now. It's a little easier if you do this before you attach it, but it's not that much of a big deal. And once again, a little blob of bare conductive paint goes on there. This bare conductive paint does have a little bit of resistance, but it makes really no difference at all to the EL wire. And I had a feeling before I first tried this that it wouldn't matter because of how extremely thin the angel hair wires are. I think that's what they're called on the EL wire. The two little wires that go around the phosphor are very thin, which tells me they have quite a bit of resistance, and that doesn't seem to cause any problem. Alright, so now, the next step, I'm going to do a test before I put all this together and find out that it doesn't work. But works like this kind of thing because I can bridge across. I have here. I'm going to turn the light out. There we go. I do appear to have a good circuit. I keep my hand on it. So, next, pardon my light, the soldering. Now, had I not had a good circuit, if I had needed to do some more work because I got no glow at all, what I would do is chip off whatever bare conductive ink I had put on here and try to work a little deeper into the plastic on either side in my two little wounds that I created there to get better contact, and then I would work the ink into those patches and onto the copper, spread it thin, let it dry, and try again. If you run it while it's wet, it does run, but like what you just saw, how it sort of ramps up the frequency and acts a little bit funny, it acts a little funny until it's dry. So now normally when you solder onto regular pads, you would actually heat the pad and then touch the solder to it, but in this case I don't want to melt holes in this plastic or do anything weird, so I'm actually going to over tin the soldering iron tip a little and then just touch it to my tape. And because I rubbed off the oxidation earlier, it should go on there pretty easily without overheating the tape. And then next, I just happen to have a little bit of wire here. I want to look at my angle is going to be important. So I'm going to be presumably coming from off to the side somewhere here. So let's try from this angle. Now I pre-tinned this wire, so all I had to do was warm up the solder already on the end of the wire. And I didn't have to apply too much heat to my little tiny piece of tape there. Okay, nice and easy. I have a little extra yellow on that side, so I'm just going to twist it around so it looks nice. Alright, then I'm going to put a little tip on this real quick, and I will test again with an actual soldered connection. So bear with me. Again, I already tinned this. It's not beautiful, but it'll do. Plug it in. Very, very gently. I'm going to flip this over for my test. Turn off the light. Hey, look at that. That is beautiful. And if you're wondering about these dark spots here and here, that's actually some damage to the sheet. When it was shipped, the sheet was damaged, and that's why I've cut it up into little fragments and I'm using it for small pieces. This is a handy strategy if you have a damaged piece of EL panel, or if you have to cut out many little shapes. You don't want to leave this all exposed. That's asking for trouble. Not only could somebody get a nasty shock, but also your wires are going to come loose. All kinds of other terrible things could happen. Maybe not all kinds. Those are pretty much the two kinds. But what I suggest is just a little Scotch tape and a little super glue. Super glue is primarily to hold the wires in place. Although it is actually an insulator, should you require one. Gosh, I used too much. Anyway, I'm gonna clean this up without a camera in the way, and then it will in fact be all done. So anyway, there you go. Thanks.